What's up, guys? Welcome back to Drag Racing Central. We are back at it again for the Vegas recap. This is the second recap we've done. We did one for Bristol. You can check that out if you, for some reason, want to look back at Bristol. You can look at that. But this one's for Vegas. Vegas was an interesting race. A lot of upsets. All I'm going to say, a lot of upsets. And we'll get into it a little bit more. But this was the 1000th NHRA national event. That's crazy. I mean, I wasn't here for all 1000. But still crazy to think about that we are at 1,000 NHRA national events. That number is probably going to grow with the way NHRA is making the schedule because they want more races. So that number is probably going to grow even faster now. So before all we know, in 5 years, we could be up 1,500. Who knows? I don't know. Sport's crazy. It's changing every day. But we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about Pro Stock Motorcycle. Winner, Steve Johnson. I kind of called that. I mean, my pick was Matt Smith. But if I had to pick someone else, it would probably have been Steve Johnson. Steve Johnson won, and I'm just glad I got to see another Steve Johnson top-end interview because Steve Johnson interviews are hilarious and hysterical and great, and that's what we need. We need drivers showing personality. So Netflix, come on, let's get an NHRA documentary. That's aside the point, but still, seriously, it needs to happen. Steve Johnson with the win against Karen Stouffer. Karen Stouffer had a great day. She did everything she needed to do. Just couldn't get around Steve Johnson. As we all know, Steve Johnson, what quote-unquote, the fastest Suzuki in the country. It's probably going to change next year. If Matt Smith's going to Suzuki, that's probably going to change. Because I don't think he'll allow that, judging by what I've heard him say. So, that's about it for Pro Stock Motorcycle, but flawless drive from Steve Johnson. On the Pro Stock, there was a lot of controversy out of Pro Stock today. The main controversy was Troy Coughlin Jr. and Eric Enders. Troy Coughlin Jr. had the win in the bag, I will say. He was leading the race. He had the win basically in the bag. But then he lifts off and lets Eric Enders win because Team Elite versus KB. You got Elite going for the championship. They wanted Eric Enders to have a better shot at the championship, so they let Eric Enders get the round win there. And all I have to say to that is that happens in every other motorsport. Because for some reason, this is my opinion, drag racing fans cannot comprehend when something that is foreign to us happens, but guys, that happens everywhere else. Like Formula 1, they literally radio the guy and say, let Ricardo through next lap. Like they will tell you let the guy through. So I don't know why that's such a big deal to us. I mean, I guess it doesn't happen often, but when you have teams, especially with how the team camaraderie is in Pro Stock, it's expected to happen. It should be almost guaranteed for that to happen. So it's whatever, If they want to do that, they can go ahead and do that. It didn't even work out for them because Dallas Glenn beat Eric Enders in a really good race. It was a really close race. I don't know the exact numbers, but it was a really good race for Eric Enders and Dallas Glenn in the final round there. So Dallas Glenn got it done, stopped the Elite domination. I guess Elite somewhat throwing the race. I mean, is it team manipulation? Yes, but it happens to every other motorsport. We just kind of need to get over it. It happens everywhere. If they want to do that, let them do it. And sometimes it's probably a lot harder in drag racing because you can't just have them pass someone. And it gets so close sometimes where you never know. You probably can't judge a gap because our racing's so much closer than, let's say, Formula 1 is. But that is still a little... I'm curious if the NHRA has to say about that. I'm curious if they're going to do anything about it. Because I remember back in, I think it was 2009 or 2008, they got mad at Force for, lifting. It was at Indy. You'd have to get a his story, because this was a little bit before I started watching drag racing. A few years before I started watching. But I believe it was Force and the Pedregon brothers. They all got into it because Force, did something. I'm curious what NHRA is going to do about that, though. Because has the policy changed? Because Graham Blight, even though he was one of the worst NHRA presidents in history, said that they will not tolerate team manipulation. I can't take anything that guy says seriously, but you get that point. He is not the president anymore, though, because people are still out there saying he's still NHRA president. He is not NHRA president. He has not been with NHRA for years, and I hope he doesn't come back. On the funny car was, in my opinion, the best class of the day in terms of the competition. A lot of heavy hitters out first round. Matt Hagan, out first round. John Force, out first round. J.R. Todd, out first round. Those are three of the biggest names. All out first round. That is incredible because it shows the competition in funny cars getting way, way better. and everyone says, "Oh, it's John Force Racing, DSR domination, blah blah blah." That kind of puts that argument to rest because Chad Green outran Matt Hagan, and Chad Green is a single car operation. He's not $1 million team. So that kind of puts that whole argument to rest that some people like to spew because there's too much there's so many fans in our sport are just uneducated. So it's good to maybe educate them a little bit with that result there. So yeah, just saying. Everyone out there that says that, not true. And Funny Car this season as a whole has just been like one of the best classes ever. Like, oh my god, Funny Car this season. Like it's you could remove every other class and just put Funny Car and I think the stands would still be packed just cuz Funny Car is that good this season. And I hope don't change anything. NHRA, don't change anything. Keep the rules the same. Like I hope this carries in the next year because wow, it's been incredible this season. I think it was Cruz Petragon with the win. That is, I was thinking Caps was going to get it on the final round, but Petragon got it. Again, great. There's not really a dominant driver in Funny Car, and honestly, in my opinion, that's what makes great racing. That's what's going to keep people tuning in every week. Is you can't make the racing not necessarily unpredictable, but make it so there's as many drivers that can win as possible. And that's Funny Cars doing exactly that. Because I can say, I kind of felt every single one of those cars could win. Like, based on, like, the first round, every single one of those cars basically had a shot to win. So, it was crazy. Funny Cars have been wild this year. If you're saying NHRA is dead, you have not looked at Funny Car at all this season. Because, man, it's wild. Petragon gets to win over Ron Caps. Again, very good race. Somewhat, until, like, 660 feet. Then Caps blew up, and Petragon kind of pedaled it to the end. But pretty good racing in Funny Car. Pedal fests are always fun, even though it wasn't really a pedal fest. Kind of lasted more of like the end of the track for Petragon. But again, great racing. Funny Car provides that. It's what our sport needs. Congrats to Cruz, and congrats to everyone who wins. Top Fuel, another Capco win. Now, Capco wins for me are always kind of like the boring wins. They're kind of like like Bristol was kind of like exciting because it wasn't Capco, but when Capco wins against like Mercedes winning in F1, it's like, yeah, it's exciting, but is it exciting though? Because they do it all the time. But you gotta hand it off to Steve Torrence. I mean, they're doing something that's like unthinkable, and it was a good race in the final round too. He didn't win it. He didn't dominate by that much. He only like narrowly beaten Mike Salinas. So it was a great race. That's all I gotta say. And Top Fuel was a pretty interesting. The first round race with Billy Torrance and Sean Langdon was the best race of the whole event, at least for me. That was like, that kind of showed how far behind Coletta Motorsports is because Sean Langdon, there was no universe that Sean Langdon should have lost that race. If Sean Langdon had like Capco tuning or whatever Capco, I don't know where their parts are from. Wherever Capco gets their parts from, I should say. If he had that in his car, he was not losing that race. But I guess that shows how far Coletta Motorsports has kind of fell off the cliff, as I said before, and they definitely have. I hope they get up off the cliff next year, because with Schumacher coming in and a lot of the exciting news in NHRA next year, they better, because I'm waiting for someone to stop the Torrance train. And it's going to happen, because dominance like that don't last forever, but it's just a matter of time to see. I thought Justin Ashley was close to stopping the Torrance train, but he really wasn't, because Torrance just kind of, resurged. So the one thing I do want to say is Brittany Force. Brittany Force is going to lose this championship for her team on her reaction times, because Brittany Force, oh my god. Are you sleeping? Like, what are you looking at? Are you looking at the butterflies flying over, like, in the sky? Or are you looking at something other than the tree? Because this is, like, it would be acceptable if this was, like, the first time. But this is, like, how many number of times she's lost in a whole shot? Like, it's not even, there's no excuse. She has the best car on the property half the time, I would say. Brittany Force has the best car. And she's losing in that way. Like, come on. Like, in my opinion, I just want to see a good championship battle. And Brittany Force is not allowing that to happen right now. So, come on. But anyways, that's going to be it for Drag Racing Central this week. We will have a video out on the championship battles going into Pomona because NHRA doesn't do enough promoting on their own championship battles, and they should. So I'm going to do it for them. So yeah, we're going to have a video about all the championship battles in the Camping World Series going into Pomona. It's going to be exciting. Hope everyone enjoyed today's race. Also, give us a follow on Twitter. We do have a Twitter at Drag Racing CNT because they wouldn't let me put Central, so I have to put CNT. So give us a follow on Twitter. I will leave a link in the description for that. So everyone give us a follow on Twitter at Drag Racing CNT, and we